At 3:12 in the morning, he woke up with his heart hammering as if he had just run for his life. No noise, no nightmare, no obvious reason at all, just numbers. Not random fragments, not half-remembered images, but a complete sequence, perfectly clear, repeating in his mind as if someone were reading them out loud. He lay there in the darkness, staring at the ceiling, trying to shake it off. But the numbers wouldn't fade. They pulsed behind his eyes, urgent, precise, almost insistent. So he did something most people would never do. He reached for a pen, grabbed the nearest scrap of paper, and wrote them down. Then he went back to sleep. By the following week, those numbers would change his life forever. This isn't fiction. It isn't folklore. And it didn't happen once. Across different countries, cultures, and decades, ordinary people with no psychic claims, no special training, and no history of predicting anything have reported the same eerie experience. They dreamed the winning lottery numbers. And then those exact numbers appeared in the real world. One of the clearest documented cases comes from the UK, reported an unusually vivid dream in which a specific set of numbers repeatedly appeared. Not blurred, not symbolic, just plain digits, burned into his memory with strange clarity. He wasn't a habitual lottery player. He didn't spend hours studying patterns or systems. In fact, he rarely bought tickets. But something about this dream felt different, more real than ordinary dreams, more important. So instead of dismissing it, he did something simple but life-altering. He played the numbers. When the draw results were announced, he discovered that the sequence from his dream matched a winning combination. Not close, not similar. Matching. Overnight, he became a major prize winner. And suddenly, the question wasn't, how lucky is he? It was, what exactly happened? Was it a coincidence? Statistical fluke? Subconscious pattern recognition? Or something far stranger? In South Africa, a woman reported dreaming that her deceased ancestors appeared to her and gave her specific numbers. She woke shaken but certain, wrote them down, and later used them to buy a ticket. That ticket won a substantial jackpot. In China, a factory worker described recurring dreams of the same digits night after night. He ignored them at first. Eventually, curiosity got the better of him. He played the numbers. He won, not once, not twice, but across continents. People with no connection to each other have described nearly identical experiences, vivid dreams, persistent numbers, and life-changing outcomes. And here's where it gets truly unsettling. Most people dream every night, but almost nobody wakes up feeling compelled to act on a dream. Even fewer record details, and only a microscopic fraction go on to see those dream details materialize in reality. So why them? Why those nights? Why those numbers? Psychologists will tell you that dreams are the brain's way of processing information, consolidating memories, and simulating possible futures. The subconscious mind is constantly working behind the scenes, far more powerful than our waking awareness. But lottery numbers are random. They aren't based on skill, knowledge, or personal experience. There's nothing to process, nothing to analyze, nothing to predict in any conventional sense, which leaves a troubling possibility. What if the brain wasn't predicting, but remembering something that hadn't happened yet? Hold on to that thought, because the deeper you look into these stories, the less comfortable the purely rational explanations become. And before we go further, I want to hear from you. Have you ever had a dream that later came true, even in a small way? Let me know in the comments below. Your story might be more common than you think, or far more mysterious. Because for some people, dreams aren't just imagination, they're previews. And for one man in particular, the dream didn't just predict a few numbers. It predicted the exact moment his ordinary life would end forever. Imagine the moment. You're sitting at home, maybe half paying attention as the lottery numbers are announced. You don't expect anything. You never do. It's just a routine, a tiny flicker of hope wrapped in habit. The first number is called. You glance at your ticket. Match. Your brain barely registers it. Lots of people match one number, then the second number, another match. Now you sit up straighter. The third number hits, and suddenly the air feels different. Your stomach tightens. Your heartbeat picks up. Something impossible is beginning to form. Fourth number. Match. Fifth number, match again. At this point, people often stop breathing. Time slows down. Reality feels fragile, like it might shatter if you move too quickly. Because there is only one remaining possibility. Either the universe is playing a cruel trick, or your life is about to split into before and after. When the final number appears and completes the sequence, most winners don't scream. They don't jump around. They don't celebrate, they freeze. Shock isn't loud, it's silent. The boundary between sleep and reality blurred. The numbers that had floated through his subconscious were now printed on a screen, confirmed by official results. Impossible to deny. And yet the strangest part wasn't the money. It was the feeling that this had somehow already happened. Other winners who dreamed their numbers report the same eerie sensation. Not just excitement, not just disbelief, but a quiet recognition, as if the event had been rehearsed in advance. Psychologists sometimes call this déjà vu, but that explanation falls short. Déjà vu is vague, fleeting, and non-specific. These cases involve precise details that appear in advance, then repeat exactly. It's less like, "I've been here before," and more like, "I saw this before." One South African winner said the experience left her shaken rather than joyful. She kept asking herself whether the dream had caused the win, or merely revealed it. That question touches something deeply unsettling, because if dreams can show us future events, even rarely, it implies that the future may already exist in some form, waiting, fixed, or at least partially mapped out. Physicists studying time sometimes entertain similar ideas. In certain interpretations of quantum theory, past, present, and future may coexist simultaneously, like frames in a film reel. We experience them sequentially, but the entire sequence already exists. If that's true, then dreams could occasionally access information outside of the normal flow of time. Not magic, not prophecy, just a glitch in perception. Of course, there are less exotic explanations. Some statisticians argue that with millions of lottery players worldwide, improbable coincidences are guaranteed to happen to someone. Given enough dreams, enough tickets, and enough draws, a few astonishing overlaps are inevitable. But statistics describe outcomes. They don't explain personal experiences. They don't explain why a particular individual woke with urgency, wrote down numbers, and felt compelled to act. They don't explain why most dreams fade instantly, while some linger with unusual clarity. And they certainly don't explain why the emotional tone of these dreams is often described as serious, vivid, or meaningful, rather than chaotic and random. For the people who lived through it, the experience rarely feels like chance. It feels intentional, and that feeling can be as life-changing as the money itself. Some winners become more spiritual. Others become more anxious, wondering whether the same mysterious force that delivered fortune could just as easily deliver something else. A few even report difficulty sleeping afterwards, afraid of what they might see next, because once you've glimpsed something that shouldn't be possible, the world no longer feels entirely predictable. It feels porous, like reality has an air of predictability. And sometimes, in the quietest hours of the night, those glimpses of reality open up just enough for something from the future to slip through. So what do we do with stories like this? It's easy to file them under coincidence and move on. After all, believing that dreams can reveal winning lottery numbers raises uncomfortable implications. It challenges our assumptions about randomness, control, and the nature of time itself. But dismissing something doesn't make it less intriguing, because even if only a handful of these stories are accurate, even if only one is, it suggests that human consciousness might be capable of far more than we currently understand. Think about it. Every night, your brain disconnects from the external world and generates entire realities from nothing. Landscapes, conversations, emotions, narratives, all unfolding without physical input. You accept these experiences as normal, because they happen to everyone. But what if, occasionally, the dream isn't coming solely from within? What if it's picking up signals from somewhere else, fragments of possibility, echoes of future events, information we don't yet know how to measure? There's a reason ancient cultures placed enormous importance on dreams. Long before neuroscience existed, people noticed that dreams sometimes contained useful guidance, warnings, or insights. Not always, not reliably, but often enough to command respect. Modern society largely abandoned that perspective, favoring data, logic, and measurable evidence. And for most purposes, that approach works beautifully, except when it doesn't, except when something slips through the cracks. For the winners who dreamed their numbers, the experience becomes a personal mystery they carry for the rest of their lives. Some embrace it as a gift, others prefer not to dwell on it at all, but none of them forgets, because it forces a haunting possibility into the open. Maybe the future isn't entirely unknowable. Maybe we're not just passengers moving forward through time, but participants in a much larger system, one where past, present, and future are more interconnected than we realize. Or maybe, just maybe, it's simpler than that. Maybe the human mind is extraordinarily powerful, capable of detecting patterns, probabilities, and opportunities far below conscious awareness. In rare moments, that hidden intelligence surfaces as a dream, not supernatural, just deeply internal. Either way, the result is the same. A man wakes in the dark, writes down numbers he doesn't understand, and days later, the world confirms that those numbers mattered, not because he was special, not because he was chosen, but because, for one brief moment, something beyond ordinary awareness reached him while he slept. And whether you call that intuition, coincidence, subconscious processing, or fate, it raises a question that's far more interesting than any lottery jackpot. What else might your mind know that you don't? If this story made you think, share it with someone who loves mysteries, and tell me in the comments whether you believe dreams can reveal the future, or if it's all just probability playing tricks on us, because the next person who wakes with numbers echoing in their head might not ignore them, and if history is any guide, they probably shouldn't. If this video resonated with you, give it a like and subscribe so that we can continue this journey together.